Good morning. My name is Suri Weinberg from Sprouts and Sweets. This morning, we're going to make stuffed fish or Gefillte Fish. It's an Ashkenazi delicacy, which is really easy to make. If you could make meatballs, you could make this fish. Anne and I have IBS, and we find that it's a great, nourishing food with protein and easy digestible for the digestive system. So we're going to proceed and we're going to show you how easy it is to make this Gefillte fish, which was primarily made in Eastern Europe in the beginning for children that couldn't eat the regular fish because there's too much bones. And in Eastern Europe, white fish was very available. So they used the white fish, they ground it up, so all the bones are removed, and they mixed it with some sugar and salt and vegetables, and they made this delectable little balls, and the children were able to eat it really, really easily without any fuss. So today we're going to try to show you how easy it is to make it. And Anne's going to be a great student. Okay? So to help make the fish tasty, I have some salmon heads, and I have some fish bones, and I have some fish heads. You might think that it's a little bit unnerving to use this, but we need a good broth as well to make this fish really tasty, and this helps us, plus the vegetables. I'm going to make it gluten-free today because so many people have issues with wheat and sensitivities, and instead of any breadcrumbs or any other filler, I'm going to use a little quinoa. My quinoa is also a mix of red and white quinoa, just for pigmentation and a little more health properties. So I'm going to give Anne and myself an apron, and we're going to get to work so we don't get too messy. How's that? Sounds good. Sounds good. So here's an apron for you, an apron for me. And the first thing we're going to do, doesn't really matter which way, but I'll try my best, is we're going to peel the carrots, and we're going to grind them up, not too fine, and we're going to set it aside. So Anne, I'm going to ask you to peel two carrots, and I'm going to give you those into here. I use paper plates in the kitchen. I find them very helpful because these paper plates, they're biodegradable, and then you have less mess to clean up. So Anne's going to peel the carrot, I'm going to help her, and I'm going to show you this really wonderful tool that helps make things a little more beautiful to the eye, and it's really easy. So we're going to peel about 5 carrots. Some of it's going to be for in the fish, and some of it's going to be for our broth. I'm going to get a good knife. Always try to use good tools in the kitchen. It'll save you time and make it much easier. I took up the ends first, just to make it a little bit easier. And for the final product, we're going to peel it. Easy peeled. You can use organic carrots, and if you're using organic carrots, you can just scrub them, and that will be fine too. But these carrots are not organic today, so I'm going to peel them. Here we go. We have the carrots peeled. I have all the debris in the plate. It's easy. I'm going to rinse them up. I'm going to use my cutting board here. So I'm going to put it in the food processor, but I'm not going to put it in the food processor whole because then it won't be uniform. And I want the ground carrot to be a little bit uniform. So I'm going to give it help it out a little bit. I'm just going to give it a little bit of chopping into some cubes. I'm going to use the S blade, which is going to help me grind it. I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to put my carrots in, and it's going to make a lot of noise. And I'm going to give it a pulse. I'm not going to really grind it, I'm going to pulse it. And if I plug it in, that would help me as well. There it goes. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then when I see it's more or less chopped, I let it go for 10 seconds, maybe that was, and you're going to have a product that looks like that. Not too coarse and not too fine. Something like that. And that will look really nice in the gefilte fish. There will be little specks of orange. Okay, and these carrots we're going to show you a little bit later what we're going to do. Okay, and then we're going to do something similar with the onion. I'm going to take a little bit of onion. Today I'm using less onion than I usually would because on the FODMAP diet, which is for people with IBS, onion is not the greatest friend. So I'm not going to use too much onion today. I'm going to peel. I'm using these white, nice onions because they're sweeter. Okay? And I'm looking for flavor. But any golden onion will certainly do. So I'm going to remove the carrots. And this you can do ahead of time. You can do this the night before and put it in the fridge. And then the next day you'll have things ready. And it won't be so much tedious work all in one day. So I'm going to put the carrots in this bowl. You don't have to rinse out in between. You're fine. That. I'm going to take the onion and I'm going to rinse it up. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut it into some chunks. Rinse my board because I have a peel on it. Cut it into chunks. Put it in the machine and get a little bit of a minced onion. So far, it's easy if you just follow my steps, and you'll be able to have a product that is really tasty. And it's not much different than meatballs then, right? When you do meatballs, right, you need onion, right?
Yep.
You need some vegetable in the meat, right?
Yep.
And all we're going to do is mince it up. And here we go again. I'm going to pulse it again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll give it a whirl for me. Okay. I will have this whole recipe written up, attached to my website, and you'll be able to follow it step by step. And here's the onion. Take out the blade. Be careful. The blade shouldn't fall on anybody. Sometimes I put it there for a minute. And there we have minced onion. And you have the carrot and the onion. Take that off. Put it there. Okay, so we have carrot, onion, minced. We can throw away this part right now in the garbage, and I'll keep the plates and the compost, right? Okay, so to make this fish, you need a wide pot. Sorry, because a wide pot, I should have taken that pot out the night before. A wide pot, that pot. Take that pot, that's good. A wide pot, something like this, will give you lots of surface area. And it's going to be little fish balls, like matzo balls. And you don't want to crowd them. You want them to have their space. So you're going to use a wide pot like that. And you're going to put in not too much water. You're going to put in just enough water to cover the fish. So I'm going to put in water just about till there. And then when I put the fish in and the vegetables, the water will rise. I'm going to use filtered water because it's going to be tastier with filtered water. Sweeter. And we could measure it. I would say it's about 4 cups of water, not more. You see, Ann?
Yeah.
Depends on the pot. Not too much. You see, it's going to just go up
Quarter of the way.
just a third of the way. Okay, that's enough, right? So you're going to have nice water, a third of the way up. And what are you going to put into this water? The first thing you're going to put, where's my bowl? Is you're going to take an onion again. Where's my knife? Here's my knife, okay. And you're going to peel it. Where's my plate? Gonna peel it. Gonna leave it whole this time. You're not gonna cut it into any chunks or anything like that. And you're gonna make beautiful rings. You can even cut the onions the night before and peel them the night before. Put them in the fridge and you'll have them. I just wanted to show you the onion in its whole form. And give it a rinse. So you can peel your onion, peel your carrots, have them rinsed, have them washed, and you'll have everything ready. Okay, so here, I'm going to do very thin rings, just like that. You hold on to it, okay? And these rings are like this, they're going to come apart, okay? Just like that. You'll place them in the water. Now for Ann and I'm only going to use 1 onion. But I would suggest, if you don't have IBS, and you don't have any other issues, probably put in 2 onions. Okay? Then we have these carrots that we peeled. Okay, I'm going to give them another rinse. Peel it a little bit more here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like to use that little special tool that I have that maybe in the beginning might be a little hard for you to use, but it's not hard to learn. Give it a little rinse, and here. So this is a great tool. First of all, it's probably a potato French fry cutter. That's really what it is, but I use it for other things. So I'm going to put you can use it on a diagonal or you can use it straight. Here is plain straight. You cut it like this, and sometimes when you give it a half turn, you have to play around with it a little bit. Oh, there it is. I get holes in between, like a little waffle. And that's pretty on for presentation. So all you have to do is kind of turn it halfway, and you'll get that little waffle cut. And then when you put it on the plate, it's really pretty. So I'm going to cut up these carrots like that.
This goes in the water?
And this is going in the water. And then at the end, if it's too tough, you could do it like that. Here's some more waffle cuts. And you can play around with it. And this is going to go in the water. So you have onion, you have carrot, and then we're going to put in the wonderful bones and fish heads to help make a broth. And then we're going to get right to it. And we're going to make fish balls. And it's going to be easy. Okay? If you do it on a diagonal, like this, the longer you keep on doing it on diagonal, you'll have longer pieces, like that.
Pretty.
And that's pretty too. So all that is really for demonstration, and a little bit is for taste, because when the vegetable holds the sauce, it's tastier. And there we go with the carrots. We're done. And there we go. And then perhaps you, at the meantime, will wash that and slice that up. Okay? So right now, I'm going to clean our workspace a little bit. And we're going to take our minced fish. So we have just plain here white minced fish. You could add half and half, minced white fish and salmon, or white fish and pickerel or pike. You can make a combination and it will be good. I like a little bit of salmon, a little whitefish. Today we just have whitefish. It'll be fine. It'll be light and it will be very digestible. So you take a paddle. Wait a few minutes. We'll do that a little bit later. And you start to mix. As you mix your fish, come close, Anne. Because this is Anne's first lesson about fish. You're going to break it up, right? And then you're going to go in circular motion. As you start mixing the fish, you will see it starts to congeal. You try to mix a little bit and you feel that it starts to get a little bit jelly-like. Do you feel that little bit jelly-like? Yeah. So I would do 50 strokes going around. I've tested this before. We've tested it and it's 100 strokes. And I think behind you is my first cookbook that I made. And it might be, my recipe is in there as well. And people said they've really used the cookbook and the directions as like a cake, which is usually not the case. So I'm going to let you mix a little bit while I'm going to grab a tissue. Because from the onions, my eyes and my nose are starting to tear. What number are you up to? Is that about 50?
Yep.
Do you see? The product looks different. The fish looks different. It's more jelly-like, right? So you need to get that jelly substance, but don't overwork it, okay? Then we're going to add the onion, okay? And then you're going to mix it. I would do 20 and incorporate the onion. Is that about 20?
Almost. There.
Good. Then we're going to put in the carrots. And maybe for 1 pound of fish, this is a lot of carrot. So maybe I won't use it all. I'll leave that behind. You're going to do another 20. And in the meantime, I'm going to place these beautiful salmon heads that I purchased yesterday into the water. The salmon heads will give lots of flavor. Okay. And I'm going to put some of the bones in as well that the fishmonger gave me, some beautiful bones. Okay. And maybe one fish head. Well, you know what I might do? Since Anne's going to want this for 2 times, I might save one fish, big fish. I'm going to put in these 2 little fish heads, and I'll save some bones and a fish head for the next time that you're going to have extra from this mix, okay?
Okay.
So we have right here half a salmon head, 2 little fish heads, and some bones, and that's going to help make the broth. Okay, so now we have in here the minced fish, the carrots, and the onion, right? And it looks pretty nice, right? It's a nice, okay?
Perfect.
Now, what do you think you need next
Some
to
celery.
help bind it?
Something here. Maybe some quinoa.
Quinoa's going to help bind it. What else is going to help bind it? Eggs, right. Okay, so we're going to put in 2 eggs into about 1 pound of fish. Okay, you can want to break your eggs over that. I'm going to take the food processor away because we don't need it anymore. And it's not hard to clean up. It's just some onion and carrots in it, so it's not too bad. And if you don't have a food processor, it's not a problem. Just take a knife and chop up your carrots small or a grater and your onions small, and you can do that. Okay, so you're going to mix that in, and I would do 20. Great. Anne's a great helper. Okay, then I want to make it gluten-free, so I'm going to use quinoa instead of breadcrumbs or instead of, what else do people use? Matzo meal or breadcrumbs?
Flake crumbs.
Cornflake crumbs. So people are allergic to cornflakes as well. Okay, So I'm going to use a little less than a half a cup, something like that for 1 pound of fish. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to rinse it well because quinoa has a bitter coating to it. So you do have to rinse it well. Okay. Rinse it in the water. Spill off the water. Let it sink to the bottom. And there you have rinsed quinoa. Okay? And if you get a good quality quinoa, probably be less bitter than maybe from the bulk store where it's not a great quality. And I'm just going to put it in to my fish. And then I'm going to mix the fish. I would give it another 25. Count. Now we also need some seasoning, right? Because we just have fish, onion, carrot, quinoa. So we need to season this fish up a little bit. And you probably have to let it stand a little bit so the quinoa absorbs some of the water, which is good to absorb. That's why you need the mozzarella or the breadcrumbs. So I'm using today some dehydrated cane sugar, some sea salt, and some Himalayan salt. I use dehydrated cane sugar because it doesn't have the vitamin B stripped from it, and it's healthier for the body. Okay? Oh, and I didn't show you my favorite measuring cups. These are one of my favorites from all the years that I've been mine because they're magnetic, and I always have them together, and they don't fall apart in the drawer. I really love them. They're great, and they're color-coded. Okay. So now we need some sugar, right? Okay. So we're going to use at least, or we can use my measuring spoons if you want me to be exact. Okay. So here, we can use, for the start, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we're going to use about a teaspoon of salt to start with, because we want the mixture to be quite a little bit salty and sweet because it's going into a lot of water, and the water is going to absorb some of that taste. Okay, so I start with a teaspoon, so it has to be a little salty and a little sweet. So go ahead and you mix that in and go in round circular motions. Okay, and you probably do have to taste it. You're going to have to do a taste test. Just a little bit. Nothing's going to happen to you. I've done it already. Well, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I've done it for a long time. I say we can put another tablespoon of sugar. So that's 3. And a little more salt. And I'm going to put in a little pink Himalayan salt. It's salty, but it's also a little sweeter. Just grind it in. I bought it in the dollar store. And it's pure Himalayan salt. Okay, mix it in. Now you can mix it a little more vigorously. Okay, so we have this mix here, okay? You could let it stand for about a half hour or maybe 20 minutes, and then you can start preparing it. But for today's purposes, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So really, originally, it was called Gefillte Fish. Why was it called Gefillte? Because Gefillte means filled. So they used to take the white fish, and they secured it, or I don't know if they did, but I do, with some toothpicks. I close it. It's really easy. Look, you take the flesh, put it in here, into the fleshy part here. It's harder because that's the skin here, but the membrane, but here into the fish, push it through, and now I just secured it. it's not going to open. Because when you put the fish into the water, the boiling water, it tends to open up. So you have to hold it a little bit. So when I secured it, now I made myself a little pouch. And with that little pouch, I'm going to put in the fish, pat it in, bring it to the other side, and there I'll have a filled fish. And the toothpicks will keep it closed really securely and they won't open up. Do you want to try one?
Sure.
Do you want to try to put the toothpicks into the flesh and into the, you have to hold on to it. You try and I'll see if I can help you. Into the flesh and out.
2?
Yeah, 2 is good. I'm going to taste this in the meantime. Now take a little bit of that. Put it in. And stuff it in a little bit. And you can mount it on top. Because as soon as it hits the hot water, it's going to congeal and it's going to solidify. I'm going to put on the fire meanwhile. And it's going to take a medium fire. Not too high. You don't want it to boil away. But you do need it to simmer. So I put on like a medium flame. It's hard to see the flame here. Maybe if I turn off the light, you can see the flame better. Is that better? It's a medium flame. Okay? That's great. Okay, so we also have to season our water, correct? So we're going to use the same thing. We're going to use some salt. Okay? I'm going to put in about 3 teaspoons of salt equals 1 tablespoon. Okay. I'm going to put in maybe 2 tablespoons for now. And then I'll check it. Scant 2 tablespoons. Okay. And we're going to put in a little bit of sugar. I'll put in maybe 3 tablespoons of sugar. And we're going to let that come to a low simmer. And in the meantime, give it a little shake. I don't want to stir it too much. I don't want to break the heads or break the vegetables. So you give it a little twist and it shakes up. In the meantime, how are we going to make these little fish balls, right? We're going to do that to the fish. We'll do the others, the rest. But in the meantime, we're going to have to make fish balls. So what's the secret of making these fish balls? The secret is this. You take a clear bowl or any kind of bowl and you put a little cold water in it. The cold water will just be to wet your hands. I'm going to use this. I'm going to put this aside. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to rinse this. Just because I want to try to make the taste as less fishy as possible. That's my goal, even though it is fish. Here's another good trick that I've learned from watching lots of shows. You take a towel, put it here, and you always have it available.
That's good.
So you always have
I
the
like
time. Okay? So here, you take your hands, you wet it. Okay? You take, and that stood around 15 minutes while we were getting things on. About a nice tablespoon like this. You roll it. Try to make a nice even ball, just like you would make matzo balls or meatballs. Same, right? Wouldn't you have to do that?
Yeah.
Same thing. Place it on your tray.
Perfect.
So you want to try that? I'm going to give you water here. I'm going to get some more water. We're going to do it together. I'm going to see how many balls we're going to get. And in the meantime, your fish stock is cooking. And in the meantime, while that's cooking, this is going to solidify. And you have to kind of, don't make it too wet, because it has to have a little bit of a form. Okay? And give it a little bit of tenderness to make the carrots and the onions and the fish all come together. Form it. Same as you do with meatballs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You need another spoon? I'll get another spoon. So while Anne is doing that, I'm going to show you today, because Anne and I have IBS and I want to flavor the fish stock a little more, and I can't put in so much onions. I decided today to put in a little bit of celery. And the celery will also help give us a little bit of flavor. I'm going to cut off the edge. And I cut off this edge because it looks a little bit tough and it looks a little bit oxidized. I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to slice it as well. And I'm going to put it in the fish stock. Or I can use my favorite chopper. And I put it all together just to make it easier. So you can have it like that. Put in a little bit of celery just to give it a little more flavor. Or you can just use a knife, whatever you like. And it's easy because they're softer. You just can slice them all together. There you go. We're going to have a very beautiful fish stock, as you can see. And I have something that I do that's not traditional, but my family loves it. At the end, when the fish is all ready, about the last 15 minutes, and I'm going to show you after we put it in, I take some really beautiful golden potatoes, which really is not traditional, but everybody loves it when I put it in. They go, "Ooh, wow, potatoes." I peel them and I cut them very thin. I'm going to show you. And when the fish is finished, the last 15 minutes, I just put it on top. And because it's so thin, it just cooks really quick. And it's a really nice accompaniment to the fish. So I'm going to show you how thin I can cut that. So Anne, how are you doing with your fish balls?
I think I'm
You're doing really nice.
That one's a little big, but
Okay. And then before you put them in, you're going to shape them again, and you're going to put them in as you pick them up.
Okay.
Okay? Mm-hmm. As soon as this comes to a boil. You can put that up a little higher when it comes to a boil. I'm going to take my other cutting board here. Peel the potatoes. So I peel it really quickly, and I use golden yellow potatoes because they cook really a little bit faster, and they also hold their form a little better than a plain white potato. I think a russet potato is a little too floury and it breaks up more, but I find these Yukon Gold potatoes, they kind of hold their form. And they look golden, and they look pretty. And of course, as we know, Anne and I say we're always hungry. We're always looking for food. I don't know.
looking for something to
Looking
eat
to something to eat that won't
cause
any pain, but we like when it looks good too, right?
Yeah. I do.
So for me, I don't have to worry about my appetite. I'm just always hungry.
Ditto.
So if it's really bad part, I'm gonna just cut it away, right? I'm not gonna take that bad part. But I'd like to tell you something about that bad part. You should know that from a nutritional point of view, when you see a fruit, more a fruit that have some kind of a bad part to it, that is not rotten, that just looks bad, and it's recovered sort of, it kind of healed itself over, that vegetable or that fruit has more nutrients in it because it took more sun in to help heal and the sun gave it more vitamins and nutrients concentrated in its plant, in its form. So it's not always the beautiful fruit that's the healthiest for us. Sometimes it's the, not bruised, but the fruit that looks like it had some type of healing to it, like a scar, like a scar. So here's our fish. It's starting to boil away. You see on the edges?
Yep.
It's starting to boil away. And here's the same thing I'm going to do with the potatoes. I'm going to cut it in rounds. I'm going to cut it in diagonal. Cut it in diagonal, you have larger pieces. And cut it as thin as you can, and it will wait for you there when you're ready to put it in the last 15, 20 minutes of your cooking. And I'll do the same thing to all of them. You can cut it round, you can cut it on a diagonal. I find round and diagonal looks the prettiest. And I'll give you a good trick. If your hands are really dry, you'll have easier time cutting your vegetables, so it won't slip as much. Okay? And there's some beautiful golden potatoes, and they really look nice when they cook up. Okay, so we have white fish stuffed with gefilte fish or minced fish, and we have plain minced fish, right? This we can put away into the sink. Let's clean up a little. This we can dump into the sink. I have really large, deep sinks for that purpose. Okay, we don't need any more. This we can throw away. So the fish that's stuffed, this white fish, needs a little longer cooking time than the minced fish, because the minced fish is ground already, so it's partially digestible already. But the fish that's not ground is going to need a little bit more time. I would say maybe 20 minutes. So I would put this in first, as soon as this is going to cook up, and it's going to be in a few minutes, it's going to cook up. Wait 20 minutes, and then gently put the fish around it, okay? So all we need to do now is fill these two fish, these two steaks, right, into, because we want to. And then this slices really nicely too. When it's cooked, you can slice it in half, and the gefilte fish or the stuffed fish balls, they stay intact. See, it's easy when I put it through the flesh, into the skin, into the flesh, out, into the skin, and it kind of helps you a little bit. But put it into the skin first. I think it's easier, and you'll get the feel of it after you do it a few times. And you'll find out where you can. See, I find putting it into the skin is easier than putting it into that membrane that's closing it, right? Okay, so we have some extra fish balls. I'm going to take one, put it in, maybe even a little more, right? And you could stuff it quite a bit because it's going to congeal. As soon as I drop it in, you're going to see it congeal. Okay, that's one. Here's another. I didn't put my sticks in, but I will. Because if I don't, it'll just open up. There we go. And one more. Now, when you put it into the water, come in. You see how it's starting to simmer up?
Yeah.
And that's a good time to start putting in. You don't want it when it's boiling too much, because then it's going to make the fish pop open too quickly. So here's going to be my first fish. I'm going to gently kind of cradle it, right? Let me put that in here. I'm going to cradle it and put it gently on the side. Do you see already how it starts to shrink up?
Yeah.
Okay? There it goes. And then I'm going to put in another one on this side because I see lots of bubbles on that side, right? I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put it down, push it down a little bit. And there we have two. Okay? I'm going to take my spoon, I'm going to take some of the broth and gently baste my fish just to give it a little head start. Okay? Because as soon as you put in something cold into your boiling water, the water starts to cool down, right? But I don't want to put it up because then it's going to be too high. Okay, pick it up like that. I'm going to put it just like that. I'm going to move the fish head a little bit around and give it space for my fish. There we go. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to put it right next to that. I'm going to pick up my fish head because he kind of did a lot of his job already, the fish head. He's giving my water the flavor, and I need space for my fish. Okay, and you're going to let it simmer a little bit there for about 20 minutes. And I have a real good friend. My husband's a techie, and I'm an opposite of a techie, but there's one good techie friend that I like, and it's Google Home. And I'm going to say, okay, Google, give me a timer for 20 minutes.
All right, 20 minutes. Starting now.
That's the only thing I like about technology. Maybe my cell phone. And I give it a little shake. I don't want to stir it or touch it too much because I don't want to disrupt the form, and I don't want to break the fish. Okay? So now it's boiling a little bit too much. You see there? So I'm going to lower it. Okay? I'm going to give it about 15-20 minutes, and then I'm going to start putting in the balls all around. And then when that's starting to boil a little bit, I'm going to taste it. Okay? In the meantime, I can cover it a little bit, help it along a little bit, just like that. But when you cover it, you have to be careful. You're keeping in more heat that it doesn't cook too high. That's how it should cook.
Okay.
Just simmering. See that? Okay? See the bubbles on the side?
Yep.
Simmering on the side, but not boiling like pasta.
Right.
Right? Not like pasta, right? And meatballs, do you do meatballs on the stove or do you do meatballs in the oven?
Stove.
Stove.
And oven.
And oven. So the same thing with meatballs. They don't boil away, right? They simmer, right?
Yep.
Okay. Always keep a little something near your pot so you can easily place it. And do you see how the fish is becoming opaque?
Yes.
Okay. And the whole total fish would be probably an hour and 20 minutes. So this will be 20. And then you'll put in the fish balls. And that will be
An hour?
an hour. See how it's... See, it's beautiful, right?
Could probably drink the broth out.
You probably can. It's probably very healthy for you. Just like any other broth. Okay? I'm going to let that. Okay? So that's more or less the procedure, how to put it all together. And then all you have to do is get it into the pot, cook it for an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half. Then you let it cool for quite a bit because you can't touch fish, just like chicken soup. You can't touch it right away because if you start touching it, it'll just all start falling apart. It needs to cool. So you can leave it in the pot for about 2 hours with the fire off and let it cool, and then gently you'll pick it up. I find personally the best way to get the fish out is really with your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Some people say they can't. It's just they can't bring themselves to do it. The next best thing to your hands is something very flexible. And I'm going to show you what I might have that's very flexible. Sorry, that spoon. Yeah, something like that. Let's see if I can find it. A big spoon like this sometimes is good. Okay. A Japanese, you know the Japanese, what they have, let's see if I have that. Like this can be good to get out the fish balls. And this is really good too because it's very flexible. So you can get under it. And those are some of my best tools. That sometimes works well too. But I find really my hands are the best. It's just doesn't cut it, because all of these are metal to some degree, right? And they'll cut to some degree because the fish is soft. Let's see how it's going.
Is
Okay,
that too
a
vigorous?
little bit. So I would put it down a little. You have to check, and you have to shake it a little bit. Okay. Those are my favorite tools, really, to help.
You never
saw
saw this
this
before.
I think you can buy that in an Asian store. I think they use it in the woks, maybe. But I use it for matzo balls. I use it sometimes to just get out solids from liquid. It's helpful. Okay, so there we go. So let's check on it. So that's about perfect. That's a great boil.
It smells really good.
It smells good. It doesn't smell too fishy. If you don't like the fishy smell, you can put on your fan, right? Give it a little shake. Let it cook. Okay, Google, how many minutes left on my timer?
There's 14 minutes and 50 seconds to go.
Thank you. So, as I said, she's one of my best friends. She helps me a lot in the kitchen when my hands are dirty. And I'm making many things. I'm making meat, I'm making bread, I'm making fish. And my hands are always dirty. So I can't keep on going and fiddling with timers. It could give me one timer, it can give me a second timer. I'm not advertising for Google Home, though. But that's one of my best friends. And I don't have to go anywhere. I can just speak, and it does it for me. And it rings for me. And if I'm really conscientious, I can say, okay, Google, give me a meat timer for 10 minutes.
Second timer for 10 minutes. Starting now.
Well, it didn't say meat, but sometimes it does. It doesn't always listen to me. Okay, Google, give me a third timer called meat for 15 minutes.
Third timer. Meet for 15 minutes.
If you're very specific. So then when it rings, it tells me it's the meat timer, it's the fish timer, it's the bread timer, it's the whatever timer I say. I just have to know what to say. And I can say for now, for this purpose, we can start adding in our fish balls, because I see, okay, we're gonna bring it close, right? Bring it close. Okay, you're gonna use the spoon. Where's a spoon that we had? This one. That one's good, yeah. I'm gonna get another one, yeah. I'm gonna scoop it up, right? And take a little water again and just round it out a little bit. You can even make this day before. You can make all your fish balls a day before, cover it with saran wrap, put it in the refrigerator overnight. It'll solidify a little bit better. And then in the morning, just put it all together. Okay? And then we're going to put this on the sides. Just drop them in gently. Okay? See? And you can see the oil now from the fish rising. And that oil, as we all know, is omega-3 oil, which is amazing for the brain. Right? Here it is in raw form. You don't have to go to the health food store and buy a pill, although it's not therapeutic quantity, right? The dosage is not enough for someone that's having any issues, but it is very healthy for our brain. Okay? And don't worry about it touching the other fish, because that fish had a little bit of time to cook already, and hopefully they won't stick to each other. I'm going to move over this fish head a little bit. You can put it on top of the fish head.
Right here?
Yeah. And you see, then when I'm going to cover it, you're going to see all the fish balls are going to get nice and this creamy color, which is a nice color, right? I'm not so sure this color in its raw form is such a pleasant color, but when it, you know, when it cooks up, I think the color is more appealing to the eye. And then soon we'll taste it and see if we need more sugar and salt. And that's a little bit of a preference. Now, lots of people, especially people from Hungary or Romania, they would put lots of pepper as well in their gefilte fish or their stuffed fish. And we cannot use pepper because we have irritable bowel syndrome. But it tastes good with lots of pepper, and lots of people don't put in too much sugar. They make it very salty and very peppery, which is another version which is amazing as well. People from Poland put in lots of sugar. They probably had lots of sugar in Poland. It was economical, so probably that's why they put in lots of sugar. Or maybe just in the region things were more sweeter. And there we go. Anyway, so what do you think your first experience of making stuffed gefilte fish?
It's not too bad.
Not too bad for your first time ever, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you do this a few times, it won't be that difficult. It's not that different than meatballs. It's just different ingredients. That's really the truth, right? Because with meatballs, you probably have tomatoes, onion, I don't know, maybe mushrooms if you're adding mushrooms, or green pepper or something like that. It's just a different set of ingredients. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to cover it, and you'll see in 5-10 minutes, you'll see a different color to the fish. And then when you put on these golden potatoes on top, it's really delectable. So this is my first YouTube ever, and I'm really grateful for Melissa coming to help me execute this, and I hope that lots of people will watch it and be daring and try to make this recipe at home. It's great for children. They like it, the little balls. Put some ketchup on top for them if they need it, or some mayonnaise, it's fine. It's great for elderly. It's very digestible. It's great for people with IBS, Crohn's, colitis, which is rampant in our Western society because of abuse we do to our system, and also it's genetically involved, so I'm not going to put all the blame on our Western society. And I think if you try it once or twice and you like the taste and you can customize the taste for yourself, I think you'll have a wonderful product. I think you'll have a wonderful dinner or lunch, and it's freshly made. I know you could go to the store and you could buy logs of frozen gefilte fish. I've seen them. They have lots of fillers. They have lots of starch. You can't control the salt. You can't control the pepper. You can't control much of anything. And it will take you a half a day to put it together, 2-3 hours from start to finish. I'm being very generous with the time. Really doesn't take that much. We've been talking, we've been modeling, we've been, showing every step of the way. And here we go. Let's see how it looks. See, that's 1/3 changing color, right? You can try to give it a little basting. And come back and watch for more YouTubes with my friend Dan. Thank you for everything. I kind of shake it. Okay. Okay, Google, what timer is that?
That's your 20-minute timer.
Thank you. Oh, a little higher than that, right? See how the color changed, everything changed?
Yeah.
So by 45 minutes, I would put the potatoes on, and then maybe I'll show you that after.